name's Annie Kirk and I'm a pioneer priest in the Diocese of London in the Church of England. My job is to identify and help train and equip people who feel called to pioneer missional communities in different parts of London. I wanted to be that kind of disciple that I had a kingdom perspective, so wherever I went I was saying, what is God doing here? And how can I respond? How can I be involved? How can I be an agent of His kingdom? And not just thinking about being a church goer. So everything changed and I started meeting other people who were feeling like that too. And I guess that's for me how I started to get this sense of what God wanted to do through missional communities, having these kind of little groups of disciples who were like the early disciples that Jesus trained, and like the early church in Acts, like full of the Spirit, listening for what God's doing wherever they go and then responding. That's the big challenge for the church, that we don't, in a sense, we're not the architects of these kind of barriers or these walls between the church and culture. We see in Acts that the Holy Spirit came on the earliest disciples and then they preached with power and thousands of people came to know Jesus. And the Holy Spirit actually propelled them out into communities, and through their witness, through their testimony, through them sharing their stories about what Jesus had done and what He'd done in their own lives, people who hadn't encountered Christ came to know Him. I grew up in what we might call an inherited model of church. You know, you go to church on Sunday, you're involved in lots of activities that the church hosts, and I've loved it and I've benefited and grown so much through that. But I guess over the years the big question always is, to what degree is the church having any impact on the wider community? And I think I've just seen a growing chasm, definitely, and I think many others have experienced that and seen that too. So I think the church, as we have been part of, the church we've been part of, and definitely, I'm not so young anymore, but the younger generation that they've inherited has a big challenge in terms of being faithful to God's mission to see His kingdom come in the lives of everybody around us. That means that we need to reconsider how we are and how we gather and what we do and as disciples, and whether or not that is a reflection of the kind of disciples that Jesus invites us to be. And I think when you read the Gospels and when you read Acts and the early church, there was definitely a kind of quite a radical, missional way of living that ran through every aspect of their lives. And so I think for us today as Christians, we have to keep going back to the Gospels and we have to keep asking God to show us, are we being faithful as disciples? Are we being the kind of disciples that Jesus made? Or have we become churchgoers? I met Peter from New Forms last year and it was brilliant discovering that Peter and his team were equipping and supporting pioneers like me and the people that I support to become more pioneering in mission. So I really recommend their training. Level 1 is brilliant, it will blow your mind and get you taking, I guess, risks and being bolder and facing your fears about sharing your faith and living more missionally. So go on, have a go. They do something called Truth and Dare, so I dare you to have a go.